Welcome to Legends in 20 Tech Sales Power Sessions, where we sit down with leaders who built markets, shaped teams, and defined eras of tech growth across Asia Pacific. Few leaders have shaped the DNA of tech sales across Asia the way Peter Quek has. From building massive inside sales engine to scaling Tableau's hypergrowth to running the ASEAN and South Asia P&L at NetSuite across Tableau, Salesforce, Oracle NetSuite, EMC, SAP, HP and Oracle, Peter has led high-performance commercial, channel, and regional organizations. His journey spans more than 30 years, touching almost every part of the technology ecosystem, from inside sales transformation and partner-led growth to scaling enterprise and mid-market SaaS across the region. Beyond business outcome, Peter is known as a people builder. Many of the sellers and managers he has coached, hired, and shaped have gone on to become directors, VPs, GM, and founders across APJ. Peter, thank you for being here. Let's dive into your story and the leadership wisdom you have collected across 3 decades in tech. Peter, thank you for being here and genuinely appreciate your time today.
Yeah, Kai, thank you very much. I was surprised when you reached out to me. Yeah, I think this is a rare opportunity for me and see what I can do for the next generation of leaders.
Thank you, Peter. Now, talking about the last 3 decades across tech, right? You've seen it all. From HP to Oracle to SAP to EMC, Tableau to Salesforce, and you have led across multiple eras of technology, from hardware to on-prem to cloud, and now even AI-driven transformation. What's changed the most in the art of selling, and what fundamentals have stayed the same?
Well, great question. As we know, in today's world, the customer would probably have access to a lot of information, various sources, and they would have been very well educated before they even speak to a seller. And of course, velocity is the other big one. Information flows at lightning speeds. And so right now what is happening is that the role of a seller is now shifted from just merely providing information to being a business orchestrator. And that means connecting those customer challenges and how do you kind of move that to a C-suite kind of vision. Your second question was really about what is timeless. I look at 2 things. I think it's timeless. To me, integrity is a big one, and the other one being curiosity. Technology changes every year, right down to the minute, but customers still buy from people that they can trust. And if you take that away, their entire process just breaks. So the other piece is you really need to have that curiosity. If you lack curiosity, you really can't add value to where the customer is already very educated.
Now, moving away from integrity, curiosity to scalability, right? From the time I've known you, you have consistently led and scaled sizable teams wherever you have been. You have scaled some of the largest sales organizations from 30-person teams to over 100 across Japan, China, India, ANZ, and even Southeast Asia. What core principles consistently produced high-quality pipeline, predictable execution, and the most important, strong collaboration between field and channels team?
So I will probably give you the 3 Ds, all right, that I always call them 3 Ds. The first D is really discipline. And for that, I mean process discipline. We implement a very rigorous, standardized sales methodology, which I think most people would know. It's MEDDIC. It can be something equivalent to that, doesn't matter. But something that is basic, easy to understand across the region. There will be the nuances of each region, what they want to add on, but basically that is the fundamental methodology that we implement to make sure everybody speak the same language when it comes to managing a pipeline, managing an opportunity, and so on. And this also to ensure that we have very predictable execution across the region. So even as the team scale from 30 to 100, that is still predictable. The second D is really data-driven decisions. So every manager must know their conversion rates, be it health, etc. This is very important because we want to use data to back us up and make sure that they're right down to the ground. The reps understand what sort of data they need to be keeping in the system and keeping it real. So important. All right, just to make sure that we diagnose where the system was breaking whenever we see certain things not going in the right direction, and be it in prospecting, be it in qualification, or be it in closing deals. The third D is really development, all right? And development, I just want to break it down to say local development, because in each market, there will be that uniqueness. So it's important to make sure that when we do development, it's very localized. So we hire local talent, be it reps or manager, and we'll make sure that we focus relentlessly on coaching to make sure that the local talent continue to be developed, and of course to maximize their potential to do even better. So the manager is that key leverage point for us. So we want to make sure we train our managers to become coaches and not just administration.
Okay, so you're coaching the coach.
Absolutely, coaching the coach.
Okay, that's beautifully put, the 3 Ds that has consistently led you to scale teams across Asia. Now, I have been fortunate enough to see you scale businesses in a hyper-growth environment. Hyper-growth, things break, things change on a daily basis. You have doubled the team size in Tableau, and you have led one of the most competitive commercial teams in Salesforce for ASEAN. What have these hyper-growth environments taught you about hiring velocity, culture shaping, and most important, managing that high demand performance in a consistent manner?
Well, that's interesting one. As you bring back a lot of great memories and a lot of things to talk about, right? So on hiring, it is really in the fast-moving kind of environment, and very fast-paced. We really hired, or at least personally for me, I hired based on skill, right? For sure, right? No doubt about it. But when I have to have another element there that's to me more important, it's going to be the will rather than skill.
Okay.
So skill is important, don't get me wrong, but will over skill is definitely important.
When you say will, is it the will to persist, the will to...
The individual's willingness to pick up new things, and we look around for really raw talent that have not necessarily experienced what it's like in a very fast-paced environment in the technology world that is, but they could be seeing something similar somewhere else, for example, right? Raw talent, high energy, and the will to learn, to me, is important, all right? And of course, fundamentally, the right attitude, right? Because we know we are so good at training people on products, on how to do solution selling and so on.
Yeah.
But to me, the willingness to learn, to pick up new skill, and of course to run, have the energy, to me that is absolutely very important. And because fundamentally I believe that if they had the right attitude, they would not break the hyper-growth kind of culture, to me. That's my belief. The second one is culture shaping. Now, the culture must obviously prioritize transparency over speed. Yes, it's fast, no doubt about it. Speed is absolutely very crucial, important, but transparency is so important. So the kind of culture shaping that I always believe as a leader is to really make sure that we are very transparent in what we do. Usually in this kind of place, you probably know we over-communicate on on wins, on losses, strategic shifts. People are always asking what's changing, the new financial year, is materially changing, what are new rules? All those things they will be asking. But in a hyper-growth environment, it's very important to make sure that we give the team full transparency, right? Because without that, you're opening up opportunity for people to spread the rumors, right? And that is very dangerous and harmful. It can break the team morale if they're not saying the right thing and circulating in the group. So I think, to me, transparency is absolutely important. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we making those shifts, the changes, and so on? This is to really make sure that the team understand what's the direction we're heading to give them also a sense of security that, hey, we are actually behind them. Just stay focused on the execution, stay focused on the customer, and of course, drive the results, because that's important. Because speed, well, it's great. It sometimes creates that sense of fear, right? Uncertainty and doubt, FUD that we always said. And this is absolutely not very healthy for teamwork. And the third one, to me, in a very fast-paced environment, it's about really maintaining performance. We must make sure that we focus on the top 20% of the deals. It's really about 80-20, as we all know, and make sure that we are focused not on the deals, but managing the talent and performance. In a hyper-growth environment, you can't afford to save everyone. It sounds very ruthless and cruel, but sometimes letting people to discover themselves in terms of, even though they are not the top 20%, it could not necessarily be a bad thing for them to really discover what they potentially can do. Once in a while, we check in on them and so on. But I think it's really a case of, when it comes to managing performance, you really need to really go after the 20% that's going to make the big difference in terms of your outcome. So that's my take.
No, that's quite insightful, right? And I've had the pleasure to work under you for a brief period, right? And one of the things I learned from you was you were always there for us, Peter. Counter question: how do you manage to have that kind of energy to still step down at an IC level to coach us, to mentor us during the days?
I think there's something personal. Okay. Maybe it is something that I'm not aware of, but I think it's something that I reflect. When these questions all come. Recently, I kind of did a lot of reflection. Why do I behave the way I did? I think in a large part, I'm a big beneficiary of mentoring coaches that I had. And sometimes it could be as simple as the peers that you work with, or even the reps that work with you, that give you a few lessons to learn, right? Mm-hmm. So probably you may not be aware, before I came into the technology world, mm-hmm. I was actually in the police force.
Ah, okay, that's interesting. Okay,
right. And I did national service as a regular in the police force. A lot of things that probably the common man wouldn't get to see, right? Mm-hmm. That taught me a lot in life about how do you handle situation, how do you remain calm, how do you interact with people. I always joke about it with people who are not in the police force. When they ask me what's life like, what's a day in the life like as a police officer, I say, look, nobody ever called police when they're celebrating birthday, they're celebrating a wedding, a happy occasion. They always call the police when there is something bad, something sad, something that is not manageable, to come and help, right? So naturally, when you encounter more of these kind of scenarios, you start to really gain to be very grounded in terms of saying, hey, things are not necessarily very rosy out there. Yes, there'll be happy occasion, but guess what? there will be this kind of situation that you probably need to go in there with the victim or somebody who is in distress and kind of try to help them out, right? So I kind of took those learning, etc., from the public sector into private, and even better, a very fast-paced environment, and then see how I can apply whatever skills that I picked up, whatever empathy that I've kind of socialized with and so on, that I need to really bring into the workplace environment. That's it.
Oh, beautifully put. Okay, now a lot makes sense because you were always there for us. I've had the pleasure to see you move from sales management into general management at Oracle NetSuite. What principles helped you align leadership excellence with operational discipline across the diverse portfolio you were managing for NetSuite across ASEAN?
Yeah, certainly NetSuite really gave me an opportunity to also push my boundary. I will probably answer in 3 points. And first, to me, it was really all about operational discipline.
Okay.
So as a GM, I was no longer just accountable for the outcome, the result, in terms of the performance, but I started to really begin to realize that I was accountable for the entire customer journey, right? And customer journey is not just about bookings, but it's really about making sure that I focus heavily on the customer success, that customer advocacy, and retention rates. And in addition to that, making sure that we are, in the eyes of the customer, trusted advisor. They trust us, they trust the technology, trust what technology can do for their business in terms of delivering the kind of business outcome that they're looking for. And in return, they hopefully will invest even more in the technology because they start to realize what it can do for them.
Yeah.
And that obviously translates to a better business outcome for NetSuite. So it's really about all those I start to realize that as a GM. The other one is really about the making sure that as a GM, I am in the middle of what goes on between the various departments, be it finance, marketing, support, and the sales, and how they work together. So kind of like a middleman, so to speak, by making sure that there is that the need to mediate between departments, and sometimes even as a sales GM, I need to come in to mediate between, say, marketing and another department that is not necessarily under my charge, so to speak. But that's the role of a GM, right? And it could be finance, it could be any other department. So that is kind of the role that I was, even though it was largely focused on a single P&L goal, etc., for ASEAN. But again, I need to come in to play that role. Interestingly, on that note, I'm even asked to come in sometimes to justify the headcount of people that are not working under me. So I have to talk to finance and persuade them that we need those headcounts because those headcounts are supporting sales, but they don't report to me. But that's it. That's the rule. And so having talked about alignment, I think personally for myself, I had to do a lot of unlearning. Unlearn a lot of things that I'm so comfortable doing, and I say it because sales is in the blood. The tendency to really go after a lot of the short-term, heroic kind of measures, I had to replace all that.
Can you elaborate this more? When you talk about unlearning, I understand the sales blood that you just spoke, but what facets of the sales aspect came under the unlearning process?
So prior to being GM, there were a couple of other roles that I did, and they were largely like the frontline role, that you and your rep
Yeah.
When you see a customer, you come in and then you try to help the rep in terms of the tactics, the negotiation aspect and so on, the good cop, bad cop, whatever you call it. That kind of things that you enjoy doing for many years, and then you suddenly say, hey, look, as a GM, I should not be doing that anymore because it's not sustainable. It's one, two, is hey, no longer paid that way. And then I think you got bigger things to look at and so on. So that got to stop, and you got to unlearn that. And really learn other skills that you need to take this team to the different level, right? And secondly, it's also about you managing the managers right now. You have to make sure that you're constantly reminding the managers about their role as coach. And those are the things that, I've got to start to unlearn and relearn.
So what did you like the most? Your IC days managing the reps, or your leadership days managing and coaching the leaders? One is frontline, the other one is managing mentors, managing the frontline.
I think I really enjoy it all, right? At the different stages and so on. I think it's all part of that journey and the learning process. These days, if you ask me, I enjoy what I'm doing, right? Mentoring, coaching, business advisory role, and spending more time with the family and loved ones, right? So those are to me absolutely very important. Yeah.
All right, beautifully put. And Peter, one of the things that you're well known in the industry is the several leaders you have built throughout your career, right? Some are leading organizations, some are being VPs, some are now startup co-founders. What do you look for when you decide to advise someone, hey, your time has come to move into the next phase of life, which is managing people under you? What is that indicator you look for? Or what would you advise the next generation of ICs who are looking at moving to that leadership phase?
So I look for three things in someone looking to move up to the next level. To me, the first one is really the strategic foresight. All right. So what I mean is that I really look for someone that is looking beyond just this current quarter. They are always looking to articulate a strategy for the next 12, 18 months, even next 3 years for that matter. And of course, anticipate the market shift.
Yeah.
And even better still, potentially what are some of the likely scenarios, all right, when market shifts and so on. So that to me is very important, the strategic
A long-term vision.
long-term vision beyond this current quarter or the next 2-3 quarters even. The second one is, of course, taking ownership of outcome, right?
Okay.
Not just the effort, if you know what I mean. So there's a big difference there. Some are great in taking ownership of the effort, but not the outcome. It doesn't help. So someone that will stop making excuses as to why we didn't achieve what we need to achieve, but really taking full unconditional ownership of the results. So the third one, obviously, is the ability to elevate others.
Okay.
Elevating others is so important because a leader's job is not only about achieving results, but to make sure that they can replicate themselves even better, to create even better version of themselves, right? For the future, right? So I look at who they are developing. Why are they developing those individuals? Sometimes they can see certain strength in the individuals that I can't see. That is great, all right? And of course, to me, if really the team is not growing these future leaders under this leader, that will be somewhat concerns me, right? Because to me, this is how businesses grow, all right? And on this note here is really about the other flip side is also true. Some individuals that we see that are no longer growing, I think we've got to make a path for them to let them go, right? It may not necessarily be the individual's fault, for example. Sometimes the conditions are not right. So letting them go, no hard feelings. Sometimes they would, bloom somewhere else.
So that's nicely put, right? Number one is having that long-term vision, business specific.
Yeah.
Number two was beautifully said, not only focus on the effort, but having a tendency to deliver the outcome. And number three was having the ability to elevate their own peers, similar to who they are. Now, let's talk about leading through change and transformation. What have you learned about maintaining trust, stability, and morale during uncertain periods?
Yeah, it's a little bit of what I mentioned earlier, but again, I could give more context on this note here. So leading to change, to me, is certainly something that's seen very often in the last 3 decades, be it acquisition, be it restructuring, or could it be the normal year-over-year changes that I spoke about. So this is something, and really it's really a job of leaders, because you're really talking managing human emotions. And usually, most people don't like change. Right? And that's where the emotion comes about. So to me, one is important, is a radical transparency, and you've got to do it in a way that's fast, but carefully thought as well. So when change come about, typically in the first 24 hours, I will make sure that I communicate the facts that I know, and obviously acknowledge the uncertainty that you don't with the team, and of course reaffirm if the team really still very valuable to the organization, because to me silence can be destructive, as I said earlier, and doing this, communicating it transparently, make sure that even before I do that, I want to make sure that I consult with managers, be it my peers or be it managers that I'm managing, to also make sure to hear from them how will this communication be received, right? Firstly, how will they receive? If they receive this communication, how would they feel about it as well? So it's twofold. One is about them, and one is really about the people that they are managing as well. So to me, it's very important. And of course, the other one is be hyper-focused on the mission. Yes, the changes are there, but we will constantly remind ourselves and, of course, the team that the day-to-day activity or the roles that we perform in terms of, managing the customer, no doubt about it. And want to make sure that the team understand that it's absolutely very important, right? Make them feel comfortable that their contribution is still very important in spite of these changes, right? And lastly, of course, as the leader, we want to make sure that we are leading from the front to make sure that even in spite of changes, as a leader, you are calm. You're not panicking. You are here with the team, right? To go out there and do, carry out the mission that we talk about, right?
Yeah.
And some of these changes can be very drastic. Price changes, increase in price. These are things that we see quite often. It's not a nice topic, right?
Yes,
but as a leader, you still remain calm. You still going in there and explain to the customer why are these price changes necessary. So, lead from the front. You got to show up. You can't hide behind the reps. You got to really be there with the reps to make sure. And even better still, sometimes it's important for you to give them the communication structure, the mechanism, so that they don't go out there and feel helpless because they do not know what to say to the customer, right? We even do role play internally to make sure that whether they're convinced by what they say, right, to the
Preempting
customer.
them. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So very important, right? And yeah, as a leader, you just want to make sure you're leading from the front.
Let's talk about purpose, mentorship, and the next chapter,
Yep.
Peter. After decades in high impact leadership, you're now shifting focus towards mentoring, volunteering, and supporting the next generation. How has this purpose driven chapter shaped your perspective on leadership? And what do you believe should senior leaders prioritize as they enter this state of their career?
Yeah, that's a good one. I've been reflecting a lot on this as well. Now that I in this stage, right?
Yeah.
I think shifting focus to mentoring has fundamentally changed my perspective. As I said, I'm a big beneficiary of that in the last 3 decades. Invariably, every role that I went into, I learned something, right? Even from bad managers, I pick up something, right? As well. So I think moving to the next chapter, we got to make sure that as the leader, it's really not about the size of the P&L, but the quality of the leaders that they develop and they leave behind. That to me very fundamental. So senior leaders entering this chapter must really know how to prioritize legacy over liability. So what I mean by that, right? I think it's important to focus on the foundation, right? Making sure that we are spending time mentoring those who lack access to really top tier coaching, because it's really about building foundation, the foundational integrity that I spoke about, and of course the resilience in the next generation, right? And 2, prioritize health. Health is wealth, as they always say, right?
Yeah, true.
And here the health we're talking about is both fundamental and of course the physical health. And of course, to those who have religion, the spiritual health, very important as well. You cannot lead or mentor effectively if you are burnt out. And unknowingly, it may affect individuals around you, including your loved ones, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I wish I had paid more attention, right, to this balance earlier in my career. I kind of like realized it and learned how to balance it at a time in Tableau.
Yeah.
All right, ironically, right? But fast-paced, but that's where I really learned something, learned how to balance it. And I'm really thankful for that because that was where I realized it's so important, attention in this area on health, right? Because health to me is the platform for your influence. You start to be able to influence people because you're healthy. But you can't influence when you don't have good health. It's tough, right?
Okay, that's a lot for the next generation to introspect, but quite insightful. Thank you for that, Peter. And that brings us to the end of part 1 of this Legends in 20 session. We have unpacked the foundations, the mindset, the principles, and the leadership philosophies that shaped Peter's journey across the different chapters of his career. What I love about these conversations is that they remind us that great leadership isn't built in a single moment. It's built through habits, choices, and the willingness to evolve. But there's another dimension to leadership that we haven't touched yet, the defining moments. The moments that change how you think, how you lead, and how you show up for your teams. So if you enjoyed part 1, follow along and join us in part 2. That's where we go deeper into the pivotal experiences and turning points that shaped Peter's leadership path. I will see you there.